back again, chat with your enterprise data. This is actually the result of a paper that will be presented now by Simon. So we moved it from the paper session to here because it fitted up front into the session, and we didn't know that we wanted to change the title of your talk. So please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually an interesting backstory here, because that paper, the connection between Marco, Filippo and me started last year at SummerSOC. So I met them last year at SummerSOC, and we said, hey, you're working in the same area, we should do something together. And then we created a prototype, I think 1 or 2 months later, and said, hey, we want to evaluate it also a little bit. And so we were still in contact, so I contacted Marco, I contacted Filippo, and they said, yeah, well, we would love to. We don't have too much time, but a little bit. So let's do a little bit of evaluation. And then I also asked Linus, who's a close friend of mine from late days, and he's now as a professor at King's College, who recently got his first Nature paper accepted, so he really knows how to write good papers. And so we went out as a team. I did the building, as I mentioned in the morning, I love to do that. And I got the others to write the paper, to do the evaluation. And now but sadly I have the honors to present it. I would love if Marco or so would be here, but yeah, this is they had other obligations. So this is what I will present. Chat with your enterprise data. And the idea is very simple. Enable AI to answer any business question. That would be awesome, right? If you're just asking AI, I get my answer back on any question I have on my business data. But there's a little bit of addition. We want to say, while enforcing governance, because we have to make sure that the data is protected. And that was the mission that we went out to do. And I looked up, and really the prototype that we published, the GitHub repository back then is about 11 months old, which is like 11 years in AI time. And now, well, the world is doing that a lot, but back then, 11 months ago, not so many people talked about that. And, well, basically we want to have that. We want to have this chat interface, and we want to just ask, who are our top customers, for instance. We want to press enter, and we want to see some results. And let's just show it. So, okay. So basically, I do have a Claude here, and I did set it up. We see here a connector, but that's used. And I'm just going in the paper here, and I just get the queries out there. So we have the exact same queries that we used here. Where's this? Okay. So the idea is we just say, who are our top customers? We just give that the AI. And when we look close, it's now thinking, it's using Opus 4.8, and it will now do the search. So it looks through the metadata, what's there, what can fulfill that query, that question. It now found an offering, a data product. We can even look into that here. You see a search was initiated, it did search with these parameters, it got this as an answer, and then here it's now getting more details. It now realizes, well, this is actually perfect, because it got me all the details of that data offering, and I have a lot of information what is inside the data offering. And then it realizes, okay, it's been perfect, but well, I don't have access. It asks me, I can submit an access request for you, then I can say, please do. Sometimes it just requests access by itself, but now it just requests access to the data. It even identifies who's able to grant, so it even helps me, may I draft a quick note to nudge the human that has to approve that access request, but we will not do that. And now we switch to the system where the human has to approve. So we have this edge here in the graph. This is me, this is the offering. I'm just approving it. And then I just say try again, please, because we always have to be nice to AI, because we never know. And now it's actually running SQL queries against the data. Takes a little bit of time. There's serverless in the background, which is never serverless, so that serverless has to start up. And when we look, now we get the results here, and we could of course continue working with that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why can't you just simple straightforward SQL queries? Why do you even have to go through?
Yes. Yes. Because you don't want to. Who gives you access to your database directly? If you go to people in your and you ask them, please give me direct access to the whole database of my system, maybe the Oracle, or you will not get that. There was always someone asking, why do you need that access? For what purpose? What are you currently doing? And the problem with agents is you don't know upfront what they will do.
That's what I'm saying. That's not correct, because I work with enterprises all over the world. They don't want this flexibility. They hate the flexibility. They want very rigid, focused effort to pull data, because they don't want their internal staff to go crazy.
Yes.
I'm giving you a direct answer.
Yeah.
This is not going to fly with any of our partners or clients, because this is giving too much flexibility to an enterprise that already wants to set boundaries and set who can do what. So in fact, it's going to fail miserably in the enterprise side. I come from California, we know all this stuff, right? And to a certain extent, we're saying that enterprises don't want that. If you go to finance, banking, the last thing they want is somebody to get access to this and to write a query that makes no sense. Because they have very specific requirements on compliance, regulation, look up loan information, look up CRO, look up this, look up that.
Yeah.
Same with any enterprise. Healthcare is given to us. So I still feel like I think this is too primitive. Because there's already enough work done in this space. I just feel it's very primitive.
Interesting aspect. So my experience differs. That's very interesting. Perhaps we can talk about that. Because whenever I present that, people get glowing eyes. So that's very interesting where you see the difference.
I guess you are talking on different application scenarios. Maybe
it's flexibility, right?
Well, this is just a simple example he's
Yeah.
presenting. So maybe if the example would have been in a different area, it would have been fine for you. Yeah. So maybe you just go.
Let's continue it offline. But I'm really curious on your points, because this differs from my experience, and you have other experience that you. Yeah. So that's interesting. Okay, so in this case, now we had this data, and we could now visualize it or work with it several ways. Maybe let's ask a second query from the paper. We say, what are the top reasons for support tickets? And different data, it's owned by a different team, and here we do not have the human in the loop. Yeah, because it's not that sensitive in this case, and it will do the same thing. We don't have access yet. It will again search through the metadata. It now found the data product that offers it. It now will look more detailed if it really helps me in answering my question, and it says access auto approves. So let me request it. And here we see it requested access. It gave a purpose on why we want to have access to the data that was automatically approved. Here, success, request automatically approved, and so it's logged and for audit purposes. And then it did several SQL queries, sliced the data, and now we have our answer, and now we can see all the information about our support tickets here, and can continue working with the data. And we didn't have to make any, no human was involved. That was fully automated process from the question to the answer, but all audited and double checked. And now the third one. So I'm now asking, I need a CSV file for all our top customers for luxury email campaign. And now it's asking, sometimes it's asking that. And we have to help it a little bit. Now it searches again, and then it builds up its context. And what we should see, that it finds the right data, the data would perfectly fit. It already has access, but it's not allowed actually. It's not, the purpose is not allowed. The use of so I have access. If I would fire up a secret client, in essence, I could directly connect and use the data, but I'm not allowed to use it like that. Using it like that would be a data breach. And we have built let me see, some guardrails in. Here we see the data contract blocked the query. So we basically stop the query in flight. And it's like a protection layer. Although we have access, also someone granted us access to that table in the system, but the grant to that table in that system was attached to a purpose, to some policies. And basically we intercepted that secret query here and stopped it from being executed. And that's the key thing here. Maybe we extend the boundaries of let's say, governance from checking it at request time, I request access, and then you get granted, to the actual usage, because there's a gap. It was not done, and humans have like this internal filter, this additional capability, maybe I should not use it like that, that's illegal. Because we were trained in GDPR, we were trained in these things. But an AI which is not trained, which is not aware of that, or is maybe just very creative in problem solving, might just do it anyway. And that's why we need these guardrails. So that was what we did with the demo. Maybe just to reiterate what we just saw. So the AI were able to find the right data product for the given business question. We requested access. We were able to generate the SQL queries to really query the data in the right way, and we executed several SQL queries to answer our question. We can audit that, and if the SQL queries, the purpose we are currently under, is not covered by governance, we will block that SQL query in execution. And so that, and all is done automatically. No human would be able to check every SQL query that is coming in. That's just too much. And no human would also provide a purpose for each SQL query. It's just the thought of it. If you, when you run a SQL query, you have to provide why you run it. That would be crazy. And still, I do know companies they have very sensitive data, and sometimes it's like that. So there's this person that really has to record why it ran that query because it's so sensitive data. But with AI, we get bureaucracy for free, and then we can use that bureaucracy for these checks. That's kind of the underlying idea. So how does it work? So what did we do? So we had this coding agent that we used, and we configured it and connected it with an MCP server that allows a search, a get offering. We allowed a request access, and we allowed it to run the SQL queries. And the three parts that connected to a data product marketplace where we have a central place where all the data products are available, where I can request access and have this human-in-the-loop workflow. And the query itself, of course, it needs to run and connect to the actual data source and run the query. But we also have this in before. So before we run the query, we ask here, is this okay? Can we let this through? And there we check using AI internally whether that's a good idea. We check it against governance policies. And so and then if we recheck that and stop and prevent executing the query below. Maybe here from sequence diagram, now we say we request to access the data, then we check the terms of use of the contract and the policies. We do some checking, we audit it, and only if it's okay, we let the request through. If not, we stop it in flight. So, but why did it work? And I think first of all, agents have become so capable. Second, we have the MCP tools. The agents work very well with these MCP tools, and we had one single place, connected it up. The agent had just these 4 MCP tools to work with, and when we remind ourselves of the talk in the morning, it's because of good metadata. And basically summarizing from the morning, when you have good metadata, the agent can work very, very well with it. Obviously based on open standards. So then we evaluated that, and we showed this prototype at an industry conference and on LinkedIn for an audience of about 50 people each. And we let the people answer these 4 questions. Now what enables you to do that if you have that? Would it change how you work? Any limitations or concerns? And how reliable should these results be for you? So you would use it in production. So what's your baseline? How reliable should the answers be? So we got 16 people to answer our questionnaire. I think about 5 from the management, some researchers, some data architects, some product people. And in summary, everybody's saying, I want this is very nice. Makes it very data democratic. And they said, okay, it's very quick, it's self-service, I don't have to ask anyone, which is typically a hassle, how to get the data. I can just use my natural language, and I have more governance that I'm used to. So less risk, and when you look at the people, especially C-level and directors, they are typically concerned with reducing risk because they fear, that's kind of what they manage. There were some adoption risks identified. Obviously metadata quality, if you have bad metadata, we have bad results. We need security, that's an important aspect. So if we combine that with an MCP to send emails, this is very bad because we can get data and send it to New York Times or something like that. So we have to really be careful which MCP tools we combine. Costs were not little bit, but not that crazy as it is now. So as a concern, I think if you would ask it now, this would be one of the biggest concerns, to be honest, the cost for the tokens. And compliance was as well. I think for me, the most interesting one was that only 2 out of 10 said we need 100% accuracy in the results. And the others said, well, it's okay if it's not perfectly okay, right, perfectly 100%. If it's like 99%, totally fine. If it makes mistake, it's fine. I think that was about half a year ago. I think if you ask it again, we will probably have a 0 here. That's at least my feeling. We accept mistakes there. We are no longer, this is a machine that has to be 100% accurate. We have to prove that it's accurate. This is no longer what I perceive in business. It's okay to make mistakes. We have to manage how much mistakes, but it's totally okay. That's not 100%. That was my biggest learning out of that evaluation. We could do much more, but as I said, we wanted to do something together, and not, it was not a full-time evaluation, but there's a lot of potential of evaluating that. And today, how does it look today? The biggest adoption issue is deployment, actually. Because in the enterprises, people are not allowed to build their own agent and combine any APCP tools, what they like, and just run it. I don't see that. What they need is pre-built agents that they can use. And when you look at all the big players, Snowflake, Google, Databricks, Microsoft, they all build this chat with your enterprise data. They all have it now. No, they don't have the purpose-based access control, but they all offer it, and they push it heavily. And all these, they all have their own big conferences now, and that's what they talk about. How to combine ontologies, how to combine these data offering descriptions, data products. It's all of that. Well, we of course have it as well. Databricks calls it Genie, and others call it intelligence. We call it Entropy intelligence. And that's kind of the way to go. You ship it as part of your product to make it secure. You don't allow, let's combine it with sending emails for now, for the people. And you can just use that. Just skipping that. And I think, but regardless, again, if you only remember one thing from today, it's, from my point of view, the agents are coming. They will come, and they will be also autonomous, because what I showed is a human entering the query, a human asking that question. But what if an autonomous agent is asking that question? You don't know them, you don't trust them. How do you manage access to your most sensible enterprise data? Now, how do you manage that? You don't know upfront what they want, because you cannot know upfront what kind of data they need. Because if they are so powerful because you don't need to tell them and give access upfront to your data. That's the power of agents. They behave like humans in that sense. You give them a task, and then they try to implement that task. And I think that's the key part here. We need automated data governance. And we need also agents on the governance side to manage the agents on the consuming side. I think that's the point I want to make. Thank you.
Thank you. So, questions, comments over here.
Thank you, Simon. Very nice work. I have one concern, because I do think the point you're making at the end about this access of the data, you transfer it into a governance problem, but I would say still we are struggling with all kind of issues in identity-based data access. And then nowadays, people have been proposing all kind of attributes and all the other context-based whatever access control proposal, but then you somehow turn this into an agent type of approach. Do you think you are actually somehow circumventing the problem rather than actually solving the problems in terms of this fundamental access issue?
I think I would turn it around, but great question, right? When turn it around, I would say the current access control is flawed, because what happens is you started a company and you typically accumulate more and more access controls with your ID card, and it's never taken away. With agents, what I would love to do is the agent gets like 5-minute access to that data just for the time it needs it, and then I just take it away quickly for the identity of the agent. But that I need to manage, and that's actually a governance problem. And I want to give access purpose-based and not by, because all the A-bag and R-bag and all, they are like, I know you are working in that department, you need that access to that data, so I give you access based on your role, based on what your typical purpose in your work is. But for agents, it's much harder. You never know upfront what their purpose will be. So I think we have to rethink the access control and think towards the purpose-based access control. And then it's a governance problem, and less a technical problem.
Okay. Next question.
Thank you. Interesting talk again. The last slide triggered my attention, and also that's, of course, that autonomous agents, I see it a lot in my projects, and automated data governance, yes. But I think it's we should talk not only maybe about just separate data governance agents, but actually about like hierarchies of the agents under specific governance rules. So because if we put separate data agents from the data governance agents, if you make them also independent, they will not work. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think that I really focused only on the governance between the agents and the data, right in there between, like a layer in between. But we still need governance of the agent itself, or the agents that have sub-agents and that tree of agents. And I think it has to, both are necessary.
Also, data governance agents should be controlling data agents.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very good. So we have, the idea was data agents and data governance agents basically working together. Some interesting ideas, but haven't touched that really in detail. Yeah.
More questions? One more, Gary.
Thank you for the great presentation. You started with the question, what are my best customers? And perhaps I got something wrong, but when all these companies have zillions of documents somewhere lying around, why don't they build a knowledge base, a private LM with their documents? Then they can work with it. I know it's not taking the whole universe information into account, but isn't this kind of prioritized information what they here ask for? So I don't understand this, they doing everything in the public versus doing it on, within my company firewall, on premise, on the virtual premise.
So this works totally on premise. So there's no you can just do it locally in your own company. Yeah.
So, any more questions? No, that's fine. So I have seen some agents over there preparing for the coffee and the snacks. So let's